There's a catch-22 that has existed for a long time for crypto projects. They view decentralization as the road to freedom from securities violations, but they also can't sell their assets in order to decentralize, since that in itself might be a securities violation. Luckily, the latest answer to that conundrum seems to be creating a beautiful opportunity for the Cardano community. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss DripDrop's new release of information about how their platform is actually going to work, what could be some lingering misperceptions about how custody is going to work in Cardano DeFi, and a more meaningful way to compare Cardano transactions to those in account balance style blockchains. You probably noticed a subtle distinction in the way projects distribute their tokens. There have been some projects recently that do initial stake pool offerings where they keep the rewards. They keep the ADA rewards that you would have normally gotten. And in exchange for not getting those rewards, you get tokens in their project of some type. And there have been a few of those. And then there have been these other projects that do these token distributions where you get to keep your rewards and you get the tokens. So this is not because those projects want you to keep your rewards and go out and buy yourself something nice. I mean, maybe they want that too, but that's not the main reason they're doing that. The reason why they're not taking your rewards or not making you pay for those tokens in some other way, they're not making you exchange anything for those tokens. The reason you're getting those tokens, kind of for free is because those projects talk to their attorneys. At some point, the attorneys of that project will have told the executives, hey, you executives are in a jurisdiction that has strict securities regulations, like the US. And whether you like it or not, whether that drives innovation overseas or not, those are the regulations. And if you sell any tokens and you're not a decentralized project selling those tokens, we have to talk about whether or not that's a securities violation. And if you accept anything of value in exchange for those tokens, that might be construed as equivalent to selling the tokens. This is a catch-22 because in order to become decentralized, the project needs to distribute those tokens, but they can't sell the tokens. So, of course, they're distributing the tokens the only way they can, and that's without getting anything of value in exchange. So they can't take the delegation rewards from you. That's why you're getting those tokens for free. I'm sure the projects are very happy for you that you get to keep your rewards, but these security regulations are playing a large role here, a much larger role than plain altruistic desires for you to keep those rewards and buy something nice for yourself. There might be other reasons why a project might want to distribute tokens for free. A smaller project, for instance, might think that they could leverage network effects to distribute out a bunch of tokens, maintain some for themselves, and then that will increase the value of the tokens they maintain for themselves. I'm sure there's some of that kind of thinking going on, but I think this is all really largely an effect of this catch-22 created by the securities regulations. So we have these projects, and whether or not they're distributing the tokens for free or they're creating the rewards, a lot of them are doing these initial stake pool offerings. And that either requires that they spin up their own stake pools, and we've seen some projects do that, or they create some kind of voting protocol like SundaeSwap. And we've seen that as well to decide which projects or which stake pools will be the ones distributing the tokens to their delegators. It looks like DripDropz intends to step into those shoes. The projects that want to distribute tokens would come to DripDropz and they would lay out certain parameters. It sounds like DripDropz is encouraging these projects to distribute their tokens sort of across the entire ecosystem of Cardano community pools, but the project can decide who exactly they want to distribute their tokens to. And then the delegators would come into the DripDropz website right here, enter their staking address, check what tokens are available to them given what pool they're delegated to. And then they could select, I think it's up to 10 tokens each epoch, and receive those tokens. It sounds like you have to send, something on the order of 3 ADA, and then along with the tokens, DripDropz is going to send you back something like 1.5 ADA. I believe you end up spending like 1.6 something ADA when you go to withdraw these tokens every epoch. And they've got some additional language on their website that when Hydra comes along, it sounds like there may be the possibility of sort of saving up the tokens that you could have collected each epoch, and you could maybe just come along and collect up those epochs, those tokens when you're ready to grab them. Again, I think that's only once Hydra is actually deployed. Obviously, we wish that the regulatory environment that's creating the need for this platform just didn't exist at all, but it does exist. And this weird catch 22 that's been created is producing a pretty good deal for Cardano delegators. As a Cardano delegator, I mean, as near as I can tell by looking through their materials, and I haven't talked to anybody in the team or anything like that. I don't have anything to do with them. I'm just looking at the same open source information that everybody has access to here. But based on what I'm seeing so far, and I'm probably missing things, but based on what I'm seeing so far, it's looking like we're just going to get these tokens for free, and it's going to be pretty easy just to hop on over to their website and grab up the tokens. So again, bad regulatory situation, but producing a pretty good effect for Cardano delegators, as near as I can tell so far. Of course, we're only going to care if the tokens are worth having. And you can see there's a few placeholder for tokens that we're kind of familiar with. There are placeholders, looks like, for what could be those drip drop utility tokens, maybe, but the rest of them are just generic placeholders. So we really won't know. It looks like what projects are going to be involved with DripDropz until the actual launch, which in North America is going to be on New Year's Eve. DripDropz released a couple YouTube videos today, and you can see their YouTube channel has 64 subscribers, and this particular video only has 518 views. So, obviously brand new project. This is kind of what we'd expect. In this video, though, something that did jump out at me. So I noticed in this video that as the demo was happening, they weren't logged in, which made me happy. I'm hoping that this is the case, that you can just go directly into their website, punch in your address, send the 3 ADA, and then get back the tokens that you want. They had another video that walked you through the registration and login process, and it seemed to require an email address and for you to supply a name. I don't know about all of you, but I think a lot of people in crypto would just as soon not associate an email address and any kind of a name, made up or not, with their crypto public address. So I'm really hoping that the withdrawal of your tokens part of the website works just like it's presented in this video. I have no idea whether the tokens that will be distributed by this DripDropz platform will be worth having or not, but I'm looking forward to trying it out and seeing what's on offer, because I think this is a really cool new piece of infrastructure for all of us as Cardano delegators. We've got to talk about custody in DeFi projects for a second. So for months, I've had people telling me, hey, in blank DeFi project, and I've heard references to several different ones. I'm not trying to single any particular DeFi project out, but people have been saying in blank DeFi project, you're going to be able to get double yield, triple yield, quadruple yield. It was like the double rainbows video. Double yield. You're gonna be able to get all these different various types of yield on your ADA holdings. And the people describing this to me, many of them tried to convince me, relentlessly tried to convince me that you were going to be able to maintain custody of your ADA. And some even went as far as to say it could even be on a hardware wallet. And these are not the projects saying this. These are just random people who I believe had maybe a misperception of how custody would work in Cardano DeFi. So none of this made sense to me, because a lot of these projects are, projects where they want you to be providing liquidity for liquidity pools, or they want to take your ADA or other assets and lend them out to borrowers. And that's how some of this yield is going to be created. So it didn't make any sense to me at all that you'd be able to maintain custody of your assets in all these different use cases and still get these yields, because man, all these DeFi projects are working on smart contracts and they're not working on them so that no one deposits assets into them. In a lot of these, largely they're going to want you to deposit assets in these smart contracts to get these yields. I mean, that's how this thing works. You can't exactly, you know, they can't exactly make any money if they don't have access to your funds. If you're providing liquidity, those funds need to be liquid to them and to their users on the other side of whatever kind of transaction they're doing. And this came up a little bit just today. So this post was made by Mr. Ambivalent. Great name. Does anyone know if the yield on, this particular project, I don't even think the project matters, but on this particular project will still allow us the custody of our own ADA while doing it? And if so, is this an industry first? Really interesting question. And of course, the project leader on this particular project popped up and said, no, liquidity is provided by sending ADA to the ADA market smart contract. And he talked about how a token will be minted based on that. He said, the same way you can't keep ETH in your MetaMask and be a liquidity provider on Uniswap. This made sense to me all along. I think people are kind of mistaking all the various ways in which people in DeFi projects are using the term staking. I think a lot of these DeFi projects were talking about staking. You're going to be, if you are using their project, their platform in certain ways, you're going to be depositing your ADA into their smart contract, and there's going to be something going on there, and maybe there will be a yield. And I think in a lot of cases they were applying the term staking to that, but people misperceive this to mean that they could maintain custody of their assets themselves. They could self-custody their assets and still see the yields being offered by these platforms. I don't think that's the case. I think there was a lot of chatter, I believe in this thread or another one, about the possibility of some of these projects, including staking via the smart contract. Like the smart contract would delegate, somewhere, and you would still see a normal staking reward, something like that. I'm not saying none of those things are impossible. I'm just saying, at least in the V1s of these projects, I think a lot of people have misperceptions about maintaining custody of their assets and still seeing these yields that people are talking about. And another thing we have to keep in mind, there are different types of lobster traps. I think people are very afraid of the lobster traps that are rug pulls. Your ADA is a happy little lobster walking around on the ocean floor, doing lobster things, playing lobster games. And then it sees what looks like a nice warm cave. It goes into that cave, and it's not a cave, it's a lobster trap. And pretty soon they're up on the boat. So I think a lot of people realize that this could happen with rug pulls. Another type of lobster trap is the unintentional lobster trap. Maybe the people didn't even mean to lobster trap your ADA. Maybe they got hacked. And this is why we have to look out for all types of lobster traps. If you are no longer holding custody of your ADA, you're trusting someone else not to rug pull you, not to get hacked. I think this is why all the certification stuff going on in Cardano, all the auditing of these big projects, when you see these big projects talking so much about auditing right now, is because they don't want to create an unintentional lobster trap for you. They don't want you to end up losing your ADA because you gave their smart contract custody of the ADA. But make no mistake, the safest way to not lose your ADA, at least not to get lobster trapped, is to just keep your ADA in your hardware wallet. Maintain self custody of your ADA, so that the only way that ADA ever leaves you is if you push that button on your hardware wallet, on your ledger. That's the best way to not get lobster trapped. And we're hoping that good auditors and all the certification stuff going into Cardano will mitigate the dangers of these unintentional lobster traps, these projects getting hacked and things like that. But it's no guarantee. I mean, the auditors could miss something. So if you take an amount of ADA that would be life changing for you to lose, or that would be devastating for you to lose economically, and you put it into a smart contract, and that smart contract gets hacked, you can't really blame anyone. Maybe if it was an audited smart contract, you could blame the auditors. But I mean, the auditors won't always, we don't have any guarantees that the auditors will always be one step ahead of the hackers. These are going to be really big treasure chests that a lot of different hackers are going to want to exploit. And we've seen this over and over again on the Ethereum side. So now is probably the time when more than ever you need to be very, very careful of the lobster traps, not just the intentional ones, but the unintentional ones. Finally, don't forget that when Ethereum maximalists are comparing the number of transactions on the Ethereum blockchain to those on Cardano, they're probably not actually using the right metric. Here we have a post from Cardano fans and the makers of the Cardano blockchain insights dashboard, and they're talking about how yesterday the count of transactions was only 95,000, while the actual count of payments was 259,000. Invariably, when Ethereum people are comparing Cardano and Ethereum numbers, they're just using this count of transactions number, whereas the actual number of payments made, what they would call transactions in Ethereum, was 2.7 times that. Cardano fans says they will soon be adding tracking for this and this kind of account style normalization into Cardano blockchain insights. I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Don't get lobster trapped.